Welcome to Cloud Chat with Stephan and Matt. My name is Stephan Stelter. I'm one of your hosts. I'm joined by Matt Brown from the NetApp.
Guys, how you doing? I lead NetApp on NetApp.
We were just talking about some IT environments in general and the idea of cloud, generically speaking, being a bit of a distraction. Do you want to describe a little bit of some of the things that you've seen in general there, Matt?
Well, here's just a general concern. If moving to the cloud becomes a measure of success, is that really a measure of business success?
Yeah, and why does it become tempting to make that a measure of success? Is it because it's fairly easy to measure? I mean, let's be frank, there are a lot of things that we can measure these days, and there are a lot of statistics that we subject ourselves to on a daily basis these days. And it seems like you can get data that says one thing one day and data that says something completely the opposite the next day. So, it makes me wonder if, well, here's a good barometer. How much stuff do we have on premises versus in the cloud? And if we put more in the cloud, is that better? And it's easy to measure. Let's do that. Do you think there's a temptation that's part of it there?
I think it's part of it. I also think that embedded in the word cloud is this idea that it's going to be more resilient. It's going to give you a faster time to capability. It's going to save you money. It's going to focus IT on the things that matter. I think it's all embedded when people say cloud, but I think it gets lost in translation when it becomes an execution, right? We need to move everything to cloud. We forget the whys and the hows. Therefore, the timed execution kind of gets lost. The cost effectiveness kind of gets lost in translation. And not that I think cloud's bad. I think cloud having these resources is really yielding IT unlimited capability. The question mark then becomes how to use them properly and wisely to really take advantage of that time to capability, that cost effective strategy, that ability to focus IT on the right things.
Yeah, I think one of the favorite comments that I heard somewhere in the world was, you can't improve what you don't measure. Which is a delightful quip, but how do you decide what to measure and how to make it something that's in my career, I focused on things that are easy to measure. On the one hand, you've got to be able to report against it. If it takes 15 days to get the report done to measure, you've already passed the point of really having some effect on or being able to affect the inputs to that measurement. I think about that, and I think about trying to make things easy, but not too easy. But I also think about conversations we've had around FinOps as a way to measure some things.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And how do we surface those things that should become the standard toolkit for measurement of IT success, and have it not just be a simple gauge of how cloudy are you, and if we're sufficiently cloudy, we're good, and if we're insufficiently cloudy, we have work to do.
Well, because at the end of the day, whether you're in cloud or not, the same measurements apply, right? How fast are you responding to your business needs? Business meaning your external customers in terms of products, your external customers in terms of sales, your external customers in terms of their experience, and then internally, how efficient are you as running your company? And there's plenty of very traditional metrics that measure all of that. All those same rules should still apply, and that's how we should be balancing whether or not the cloud technology is helping us. And we should be mindful then of leveraging, again, the right technologies in the right spaces at the right times. And, we're investing in this. So the investment needs to be able to pay off. So I think it's funny. I think maybe this is something we can talk about in the futures thing, is a lot of the traditional measurements now need to really be brought into place. What is that time? And when I'm talking time to capability, that is a quality metric embedded in it, right? I need to be fast in responding to the business needs, but it also needs to be of ultra high quality too, right?
100%. I think that gets lost, and it almost gets lost. Well, I mean, the cloud makes everything instant. So where the quality measure disappears, because we're so much better than the 12 months implementation cycle, never mind the 3-month budgeting cycle or longer. So look, we did all this super fast. So isn't that good? Doesn't that make it good? It doesn't make it implicitly good. And guess what? All of our competitors get the same access to that speed. So you've not differentiated simply by being as fast as everybody else by using the cloud.
And then the other traditional metric to bring in is the kind of we talked about originally in the $1 trillion paradox is costs matter. So how much does it cost you to deliver that capability? And is there a healthy ROI that's involved in that, right? So are you being as cost efficient as you can in delivering that timely quality products, whether it's a capability or whether it's actual physical product or a virtual product through software? All those measurements still matter. And it's going to be interesting to see how these, I would say, more traditional metrics start to mesh with our new ability to deliver capabilities like through the cloud services.
Yeah, oddly, as much as I loathe terms like, I don't know, we had this debate about FinOps, whether it was a marketing term that was created or whether it was something that's real. And you did a great job of illuminating how it's real and how it matters. And I wonder if we are going to go and coin QualOps now, quality operations. Like, how do we get this new metric that we need to pull together here? And like, how do you measure quality well? It's such a subjective thing, and we try to make things objective so that we can make good, sound business decisions. But I can't help but feel like quality can be very, very subjective.
And I love that. Yeah.
I'm curious if you've run into, here's a good quality matrix, putting you on the spot. Like, do we have examples in general of what makes something high quality coming out of an IT shop? And I'm almost wondering, does it help to think about something in the common world that we think about for quality measures, like taste? Something tastes good. That's a very subjective measure.
In traditional IT, it's how many bugs do you find, right, in the output, right? In both pre-production and post-production, how much rework do you have to do? In software output, I would argue the quality gets measured in how many post-production issues you have, right? So I think there's
the cynic in me goes right to, well, just don't write any code at all, and then there's no bugs and there's no problems in post-production. Right? It's yeah, but that also doesn't work.
So in the terms of quality metric, it's not just how many bugs you have or how many post cases do you get developed because of that code that was released. I think there's also a quality metric is, does it contribute to the initial intent of whatever capability you're delivering? So for example, if you're delivering capability to speed up sales, to get a quote faster to a customer, every change to that process should be measured in time, in the timeliness and the quality of delivering that end quote to the user. So in an example we had been talking about in the past, you had shared with me in one of your previous experiences where a product person asked for a button or a field.
Yes.
And there was never an attachment to, did that improve process or timeliness to actually deliver a quality quote? And it's things like that that sometimes get lost in the fact that you can make these changes so quick. We sacrifice quality in this instance for the speed of being able to deliver. Oh, I can give you 5 buttons. I can give you buttons all day long.
Yes,
do those buttons have any contribution to the goal of whatever your enhancement you're trying to release?
Well, that's not important, Matt. The buttons work. When you push them, it's registered in the UI and it functions and it's clearly visible. It's not hidden. And we tested it in 7 browsers with multiple versions of each. So it's good. The button is good. Oh, yeah.
But intent gets lost.
Yes, yes. And I think the way to combat my cynical nature of, we'll just have no buttons and have the form have 1 field. And now the speed to enter your quote request is dramatically reduced because all you have to do is type in this 1 text button. And we've achieved this metric of performance that's super fast. But having those criterion that you need to, what does good look like? And then how do we get as quickly to good as we can, and good in the eyes of the customer, not good in the eyes of the product management team per se, or the support team or whomever, right? It's really, is our customer getting what they need in the most timely, accurate way that they possibly can?
Well, it's an interesting thing because, to your earlier point, we're cloud's going to make us all really fast to deliver. And all these things that we're talking about are going to start mattering sooner, if they haven't already started mattering than later. And the question then is back to your QualOps thing. Maybe QualOps does start to factor these things in and balance these requests, and the fact that we can execute incredibly fast. Is it really achieving the end goal of, if time is the most important thing to deliver a quote? Well, that's one thing. If the quality, what does quality mean there? It's all accurate. We're able to report on it. We're able to actually sell that quote or sell the thing. All those things
Yes,
become
and when the
part of
customer
that.
gets it, were they able to implement it? Do it stand it up?
Understand it. Were
Does
they
it
able to implement
function?
it?
Does
Yeah,
it?
yeah,
Oh, yes,
exactly.
yes, absolutely.
So all those things eventually need to be pulled in, and maybe it's a timeless problem we've always had. I just think now that when speed kind of now gets solved very quickly with cloud-based technologies, quality and costs do matter, and figuring out how to come up with, more accurate ROIs and whether you should do something just because you can do something, I think becomes interesting conversations to have in the future, if they're not already happening right now. Even predictable delivery, if we're not clear on what the goals of the output is, then it just gets left up to how fast was it done, how many bugs did you have, and how much did it cost. Back to the conversation around capability. Somebody has to own the ultimate goal of the capability. Ultimate goal of the capability is to deliver a very timely, accurate quote. If that's the goal of the capability, every request for enhancement needs to be measured against that and prove that it makes that measure higher.
Yeah.
And
how do we get it to become an objective measure? We need to get these measures to be objective. And I think, it's interesting. It might be the caffeine or it's something else. I'm starting to get heated about it, getting a little passionate. I got to tell you, I was thinking like, gosh darn it, we've been saving all this time by getting our infrastructure sorted out here in short order because we've got the ability to pull it from the cloud. Why can't we use this time save to get the quality metrics right? I think we've allowed ourselves as professionals to say, well, we'll get to that once we get this infrastructure up and running, and then we can work on this. It's a problem that we need to solve, but we'll work on it later. And I just I want us to not get caught up as an industry and other bells and whistles that we can entice ourselves with, rather than like AI and ML, important things, important tools in the tool bag. But let's not put those things ahead of putting quality measures in place to deliver the capabilities we need to deliver to our customers in a robust and quality centered way. QualOps, it's a thing.
Love it. Love it.
The other piece that's interesting in this QualOps conversation, putting metrics on things that are intangible is difficult. But I think as we build it out, I think we have to resist the temptation to let machine learning and AI dictate what good looks like. I think that's the other piece of, well, we'll just let the AI optimize it. We'll let users self-select whether it was good or not by whether they spend a lot of time on it, right? You think about these measurements that we have that must be delightful for ad sales, but boy, is that the wrong way to think about it if we're building a quote. Like, oh, look at the engagement was high between our partner and our quoting tool because they stared at it for 40 minutes. That's not a good metric, right? Like,
no.
and this version of the quote tool is better than that version of the quote tool because we captured their eyeballs for 15 more minutes. Like, it's actually the inverse of what's good, right? So we have to be careful as we apply these tools. I think there's something to QualOps. I think we need to come up with some axes for measurement, and we can, or maybe a quadrant or some ovoid shape. There needs to be something to this, but I think we can build it. But what do you all think? If you've enjoyed this conversation, please like and subscribe, and we'd love to have you share your thoughts in the chat and comments. So please reach out. I'd love to see this conversation evolve. Are we onto something with QualOps? Thanks for tuning in to Cloud Chat with Stephan and Matt. We'll catch you on the next one.